Good afternoon, folks. I want to welcome you to session 2 of this quarter's IGES Exchange mini summit. I first of all want to thank our sponsors, Thomson Reuters and Axon, for supporting this summit financially as we go forward here. They're active players in IGES, as are all the folks that are presenting today. So thank you all for your support of the IGES community and the Court Advisory Committee in particular. I'm Joe Wheeler. I'm chair of the IGES Court Advisory Committee and vice president at Mission Critical Partners. The mission of the IGES Institute is to advance information sharing in the justice environment. And at one level, this involves connecting government organizations with the folks who supply the technology that they use. This is accomplished through a suite of IGES services. In-person technology briefings and the symposium, for instance, is coming up in February 23rd through 24th, that national symposium. In addition, our committee work, the Law Enforcement Committee, Courts Committee, Corrections Advisory Committee, that do things like host summits like these, both in person and virtual, and providing a free clearinghouse for IT solutions and standards and best practices. This event, this mini summit, virtual mini summit, is one of those services. As with our previous in-person summits that we had before COVID, this summit is really a conversation. It's meant to be a conversation. You'll notice the format is a Zoom meeting, not a Zoom webinar. So the idea is that we'll have a dialogue and a discussion that's going on here. And I'm going to have a little Easter egg at the end of the session for folks that talks about continuing that dialogue. So stay tuned for that. But we are trying to maintain this kind of conversation between the justice community, whether it be law enforcement or courts, in this case with digital evidence. And we are focused on identifying what are the critical problems that courts and their justice partners face, and what kind of solutions meet those needs. As you'll see, while the format and method has changed from our in-person sessions, the spirit remains the same. As we discussed in session 1 today, much of our lives have gone digital. With COVID, so too has the operations of our courts. It's no surprise that the justice community is seeking for ways to effectively capture, secure, share, store, and retrieve digital evidence, and do that in a way that's appropriate, efficient, and cost-effective. So the IGES Court Advisory Committee has been asked to provide a forum to demonstrate what is possible for handling digital evidence. Our session today has 2 providers, and I'll introduce them. They'll get a chance to each do a demo with a little question and answer period afterwards. As we look at these sessions, a little pro tip is to, in the top right-hand corner of Zoom, mark speaker highlight, I think is the view display, and that'll help the presentation, help things focus on the speakers. The other thing that I ask is that everybody that isn't a speaker or presenter be sure to be muted and have their camera off. That'll avoid the distraction for other folks that are participating in this. Now, that said, we're also going to give you folks an opportunity to ask questions, and you can put those questions in the chat area of the meeting, and we may call upon you to help explain your question or to work through it with the presenters here. So if you put a question in there and we get stuck on it, we may ask you to come online and we'll get you hooked up so that you can turn on your video there. So with that, I'll get started with the introductions. And I first want to start with Issa Salama from Omnigo. He is the principal product manager for investigation and case management system software at Omnigo. He creates the product strategy and leads the team to deliver the ICMS, or Investigation and Case Management System product. ISA has over 15 years of experience working with building software for the public sector and law enforcement. During his career, he's built a deep knowledge of case management needs and the challenges that come from that. Isa, why don't you go ahead and share your screen?
Thank you, David. Thank you guys for tuning in. What I'm going to show you today is only 5 slides. I know you're not here to see the presentation, to see the product. So I'm going to try to make this as minimal as possible and jump into the actual presentation of the product. But just I want to put some light on what is Omnigo and what we do. Omnigo, we're a company with decades of existence through our smaller companies that makes Omnigo. We have 2,500 customers in 24 countries, mainly in the United States. We have many of these are in the law enforcement, healthcare, and in gaming industries. Our mission is to provide world-leading public safety and security management software solutions. Basically, our slogan is ensuring safer tomorrows. As you see in the circle in the bottom to the left corner, where we exist today is in the, we'll start with the detection. Detection is where we actually investigate and make sure that we collect everything we need to collect. We respond to incidents with our CAD and RMS systems. We report these incidents with our case management solution. We remediate the case through our basically different types of products we have. So we're trying to close on the circle of everything needed for the life of an incident, or for that matter, anything that is related to public safety. Specifically, when it comes to investigation and case management product, as you see on the circle to the left side, you've got multiple contributors to the digital evidence. You've got the body-worn camera, you've got the in-car video, you've got the surveillance videos, the cell phones that you basically see that has tons of digital evidence, Facebook, social media, cloud drives, hard disks that you see is emails. All of those are different digital evidence input points that you as a law enforcement, you need to basically manage, you need to investigate, and you need to be able later on to package and share with constituents, whether they're district attorney office, prosecutors, court clerks, or some of your surrounding agencies. What we're trying to do is to close on the loop and become a provider that can talk to all these different systems, provide you with melting all these different silos into a single pot where you have all your digital files in one place. We integrate with other systems to bring these files seamlessly into ours, and then give you the ability, the tools to manage that digital evidence, search for it, do some analytics on the digital evidence, and then basically later on generate your reports, package that evidence for courts or for district attorneys, and get it done with. So with that journey, in the evidence side, we collect digital evidence through our mobile application and through our back-end system that the officers later on can tag their evidence through the system. That way we have the entries for the evidence into the system. Also, like I mentioned, with our integration with third-party systems or other vendors, we can bring that digital evidence from all these different parties and put it within our solution. Later on, when you're ready to go to court, we can either have an API with the court system where we can share the digital evidence, and we can also allow the litigants themselves, plaintiffs and defendants and lawyers, to upload that digital evidence to the court system. We're not doing a court management system. We're only handling the digital part for all the digital evidence files that are related to an incident. One of the pain points in today's world is that the purse of digital evidence, maybe 10 years ago or maybe 15 years ago, most of the files you get are very minimal, if any. Sometimes you have these already printed and presented in courts. In a single case nowadays, you get thousands of files, even on a single dispute, as a fence dispute. One of the cases had 600 pictures and videos that the judge had to go through and basically flip through in the hearing. The amount of digital evidence is so big that you just doing the traditional way of CDs or thumb drives or cloud drives to manage digital evidence is not adequate enough in today's world. It's very time consuming. You don't have the chain of custody of what happened to these files, who viewed it, if anyone tampered with it. You don't have the assurance that, hey, these files have never been intact. I know who accessed them, I know at what time, and I still have the original copy of the file from the device that it was originally captured with, and I have it with me in the system with assurance that it is the original copy. And not to mention, when you have your own system hosted in-house, you're going to run out of storage at some point. A single case might point into 1.5 terabytes on average of digital evidence. So no matter how big the servers you have in-house, at some point you're going to run out of space, and then you're going to need to find another way to store digital evidence. One of the other problems in today's world also is knowing when I can get rid of evidence. Once the case is closed and I pass the statute of limitation, I no longer need to maintain that digital evidence. It's an added cost to me, and I need an efficient way to basically notify parties of the end of life of that digital evidence so they can make copies if they have access to, and then securely dispose of the evidence that I can dispose of. So what we're trying to do here is, from crime scene to courts, basically, like I mentioned, collect and manage the digital evidence from inception, from when the incident happens, be able to process that digital evidence, be able to redact images, redact videos, PDF documents through our solution, and then later on be able to present that evidence in court and share that evidence with the district attorney office, share the entire case, and basically provide everyone with what they need in terms of digital evidence. Now let me jump into the actual presentation, the actual demo of the product. I'm just going to make sure that I share my other screen. All right, so I'm coming here to this screen. I'm going to start as a law enforcement. I'm logged in now as an investigator who can have access to the system. I see my recent cases on the top. If I click on one of these cases, I can see the header information about that case, when it happened, where it happened, the items that matters the most to me. And I can see the events on that case, what has happened. We can see a timeline of these events as well. I can view the digital evidence files associated with this case, whether they uploaded these digital evidence files through our mobile application to basically see these files through the system, or they uploaded it using the desktop uploader or the web browser immediately clicking on the upload. I've got more digital evidence. I can click on the add button, click on digital. It would open up with my case number. I click on next. Now I'm going to actually select the files that I want to upload and click on upload. System will immediately upload these digital files. Once I'm done, the next button will be lit up. Click on that, and now I can annotate my files. So I'm gonna call it CS files and copy that annotation maybe. Click on next. And now I've got more digital evidence under my case. One of those is an important file. I'm gonna actually just pin it because that file shows me a good story about what I need to think of in order to investigate the case. And now my file is pinned to the pinned items under the case. I've got physical evidence. I can click on the upload of digital evidence, physical evidence. I've got one, as you saw, we have some bullets. So I can say either I have the gun, for instance, it's a handgun that I'm gonna actually keep as evidence. And this is Glock 22 black. I can actually fill out the other attributes we have on the system. And these attributes can be turned on or off based on our needs. I can select who's the owner of that gun and whom to return the gun to at the end. All of those screens are customizable for the customer needs. This is what we provide out of the box, but you know, you've got more needs from agencies to customize these forms and be able to have different fields and different requirements for these fields and different validation rules for these fields. Once I enter my files, I can go back to the system and view the digital evidence, the physical evidence items associated with. I can request digital evidence from property and evidence, have them bring it over to me, and we have a fully functional barcoding system to barcode these items and store them in the system. Now I'm gonna switch hats and show you, before I actually jump into that, as a law enforcement agency, here are the digital files I've just uploaded. And let's say I have a need to share these files with the court or the district attorney office. All I need is to select the files that I need to share, maybe just these two. I will click on the share button and then select until when I'm gonna keep these files available. Select the person I need to share the files with if they have access with us in the system. If they don't, this is someone external, I'm gonna select external share. And then fill out the information of the person I'm sharing the files with. And then do dual factor authentication by putting their cell phone number. And once I submit, these files now will be shared with that person. They will receive a link, they will receive a text message, and they will be able to see the files in the system. Now, I'm gonna switch hats and show you the system from a litigant perspective. As a litigant, first time I walk into the court system, I need to sign up and create a new profile. I will click on the sign up button. I will have a case number with the agency that I should at a minimum know that case number. Select my case type and then put in the case number that I have in the system. And then select my hearing date. So let's say I have a hearing on the 19th. Next, we will integrate with your court management system, whether it's Tyler Tech or Thomson Reuters or any other system. We will be able to pull up the information about the case and verify that information does exist in order to let you proceed and create your own profile on the system. I'm gonna use my Gmail account as a litigant. Let's say I'm the plaintiff in this case. That's my Gmail account, my first and last name. I have to agree on the cell phone agreement, in which we're gonna configure for the agency. I will have to accept also the privacy policy and whatever we want the agency to basically accept. Now on my Gmail, I should receive an activation key, which is 606-150. And now I'm going to create a password to sign into the system which is also should comply with the CGIS requirements for password policies. Once I'm done, I'm basically in. I can now, as a litigant, upload digital files to the system. So once I log into the system, now me as a litigant, I can upload digital files to my case. I can have multiple cases. I might be the lawyer who's presenting multiple litigants. I can select my hearing date, and once I click OK, I would see the litigants involved in this case, whom I'm presenting today. I'm presenting John Smith. I'm going to click OK. I could be presenting multiple people, because typically you have more than a single plaintiff or defendant involved in the case. Now, me as a litigant, I've got my case number, my hearing date, the case type, it's a civil case, and this is the party I'm uploading digital files on behalf. It could be me, it could be someone else. I'm going to click on the upload button, and I'm going to verify the information is still correct. I will click on the next button, select the files that I need to associate with my case. And as you can see, the system will, with the speed of your internet, will upload these digital files to your system. Once you click on next, you can actually annotate these files. So this is the Toyota, or my vehicle, my car. That's the same as the second one. This is the collision, or the two cars showing in here, and that applies to the rest of the files. Next, I'm going to click next, and now I can mark some files confidential. These two cars has something that is maybe should not be visible. I'm just alerting the clerk to the fact that this picture contains sensitive information. I'm going to click on next. I can see this file is confidential, but now I need to make this my first exhibit, because I care about the order of these exhibits. On my final confirmation page, this is going to be exhibit 1, this is exhibit 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, once I click on finish, we can actually print out a receipt, optionally for the litigant. Otherwise, if we don't have that enabled, turned on, I'm back. I can add now my second case, same way. Until I'm done, basically, I need to sign out, and basically, I'm done with my uploads. Now, here it comes the actual hearing. So I'm going to log in as a clerk on the system. The first thing I'm going to see, me as a clerk or a judge, I see all the current cases that we are litigating today, including the case that I just uploaded 5 files into. Remember, I selected my hearing date to be today. All the other cases are available for me. I could filter that by a department. So if I have multiple departments, I would only want to see the cases under a certain department. Now, this is my department. I can click on this case. I see that on behalf of John Smith, files have been uploaded. I have 5 files. When I click on that, the system will show me the actual files. I see the digital exhibit number. I see the description of these files, the status of these files. This one is marked confidential, as you can see, and I can see the name of the uploader who uploaded these files. More likely in the court hearing, I want to view these files in a full screen mode. I want to be able to zoom in and out on these files. And as you can see, I can keep going and navigating between these files. And I can, like I said, zoom in and out. I read the number on that truck if I want to. Now, closing out on this, as a clerk, this file is now with the status lodged. I need to change that status to admitted. I can click on this quick edit and change the status to admitted. As you can see, it did change. In fact, I want to admit all of them. So I'm going to select all and click on the edit to edit all of them at once and mark them all as admitted. And as you can see now, my files are all marked admitted. I can download the files if I want to. So I can click on the download button. For a reason why I'm downloading these files, maybe I need to make a CD copy to the DA office. And now once I click OK, the system will generate a zipped file for me. I can actually print out a receipt of everything I uploaded. So this is my receipt of everything I uploaded. Click on that receipt button. And now I can see the logo of the agency if we have a logo already set up, and a receipt of the files. In that receipt, in which I can print, I see the party name, the hearing date, the case number, and underneath each file, we control what kind of attribute we show. But typically, we show the exhibit number, who's the uploader, the date of the upload, whether or not it's marked confidential, and the description of the actual file. The sharing capability is still there. I can generate what we call a stamp of these files. In that stamp, I would show the case number and the exhibit number on the top of the screen. That way, I can share this file with whomever I want it. This is just basically a stamp for the files that we have. The chain of custody is one of the important aspects that we always need to keep track of. So by clicking on a single file, I can go to the history and find out everything happened to that file. This file, for instance, was uploaded by this litigant, and then it was viewed by the admin. The admin then clicked on the file updates and updated the status from lodged to admitted. And as you saw, I clicked on the download and I put a reason to copy CD copy to the DA. And that reason is already in the file for me. I can print out this file and get a full history of everything happened to that particular file in the system. Notice the word authenticated. This is our assurance that we have a 100% copy of the file that was uploaded by the original litigant in the system. And now I can navigate between these files and view actual details of the files themselves. We've got more capabilities on, as you can see on the toolbar. So let's say you've got another hearing on this case. We could not finish all the hearing today. I can click on the copy exhibit button and copy these exhibits. We're going to continue on Friday. So let me copy these exhibits into Friday. If I go back to my list of litigations that I have and look up Friday, I can already see that this case already been copied. And clicking on that case, I see the files from John Smith. And here are the digital files that we have on that case, on that day. On the left side panel, you've got the ability to see what we call the quick queries. So me as a clerk, I can see whatever the system I need to query on a case number, for instance. All I need to do is click on that case search on the top, put in that case number, and now I get the files in the system. Now I've got them as 10 because I've got basically 2 hearings for the same case. And if I click on it, I could either see them all, or I can actually have a grouping as an optional on the system to group them by hearing as well, which will be one extra click for you when you need to view the files. The beauty about this system is that it's role-based system. So we can define different roles on the system. And for every role on the system, we can determine what kind of permissions we need to give for that role. In the digital side, for instance, I can control if the clerk can upload digital files to the system or not. What kind of upload they can see? Can they view the file history? Can they download files? Can they restrict access to images? All the features and capabilities we have on the system is controlled through the group management, or what we call the role management. That way we can ensure we can have different roles on the system, and for every role, we have the right permission set for that group to get access or not get access into the system. That's all I wanted to show you today, and please feel free to ask questions.
All right. Do we have any questions in the chat here, just to start out with? If not, I think what I'm going to do, I have a series of questions that actually can apply to both the solution providers. So if David and Kendall are available to get going, maybe we'll take these questions at the end. I do want to encourage folks to use the chat feature here to connect and everything. And my good friend, Mr. Cabral, chimed in with a quick question. It'll probably be something we'll bring up for both vendors. Jim asks, you mentioned the availability of APIs for integrating with third parties. Can you describe those? And in particular, Isa, I'm kind of interested about what that looks like based upon the type of application, say a case management application or another digital evidence application or a law enforcement or prosecutor application.
Sure. So as of today, we have interfaced with more than 15 different record management systems. And we have interfaced with a few case management systems. With some of our customers, we have interfaced with Tyler Tech, with a system called Journey, another system called Voyagers. And we're basically gonna, our plan is to integrate with Thomson Reuters as well. The reason why we need that integration is to save time for the clerks, rather than re-entering the information about the case and what we have in it into the system. They can, with that interface, we can pass that information to the court management system, look up that case, and copy the litigants, the hearings of that case into our system. Basically, the minimal information we need to operate this system. This system is not meant to be a case management solution. It's only for managing the digital evidence part. And with that, we have a robust RESTful API that we can either expose our data to other vendors, or we can create custom work and do the interface with third-party systems, like I mentioned, such as Tyler Tech or Thomson Reuters. In terms of evidence, digital evidence, we've interfaced with Axon. I'm just throwing out some examples. Axon, Digital Ally, Grayshift, Versatherm, Tebron, iLeads, Motorola, many other systems. The names are slipping my head now. Our goal is to basically, rather than being the single point of record on the system, we're trying to save time by not re-entering what is already been entered on another system and bringing that information into our system.
So as you share information, does Omnigo serve as the system of record for the evidence, and then the case management system calls on Omnigo to present that evidence?
That's how we typically have it. We do have our record management system that is mainly tailored for customers in Missouri and some other states. In fact, we do exist in 24 different states with our record management system. But you don't have to have our record management system to have the evidence management. You could use your own and then use our modular system just to include the digital evidence piece or the physical evidence management.
Gotcha. Very good. So hopefully that answered your question, Jim. Any other questions for the audience before I bring Thomson Reuters Caselines on? We'll have an opportunity for more questions. This is a dialogue and conversation, and we will keep that going after we bring on our next presenters and demonstrators. And when I say demonstrators, I want to mean that in a really good way. So Kendall and David, if you can light up your cameras. David Jackson is a senior director with Caselines, with the Caselines business of Thomson Reuters, and he supports courts and litigators and prosecutors to manage virtual hearings by, with Caselines, preparing and delivering hearing files and presenting documentary and video evidence in the case, in the courtroom. Caselines has been doing this since 2014 for criminal, civil, child, and juvenile protection, tribal hearings, all of these in courts around the world. So David is also happens to be an active member in IGES. He's vice chair of the court's advisory committee. And he has led digitization projects throughout the US, Canada, South Africa, Kenya, the Middle East, around the world. I also want to introduce Kendall Smith. She is business development manager and involved with Thomson Reuters. Kendall has worked with court and legal technologies and industries for over 25 years with a focus on emerging and new court and electronic filing solutions. She started her career as a litigation paralegal back in 1995 and joined Law Plus LLC, the company that developed the first e-filing systems in the US. That company was ultimately acquired by LexisNexis in the 2000s, and she managed strategy and sales for LexisNexis File and Serve until 2015. As a business development manager for Thomson Reuters Court Management Solutions, she now finds ways to help courts succeed in their modernization efforts, including comprehensive court management and virtual hearings, including remote trials. Kendall and David, I'll leave it to you. And Alex, I think you're running the slide deck.
Great. Thanks, Joe. Confirming you guys can hear me.
I've got a good sound check.
Awesome. That's great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Kendall Smith. Joe, thanks for that introduction and for this great opportunity to participate in your summit today. And side note, I'm really looking forward to whatever this Easter egg hunt is that you're going to throw our way at the end of the session. So thanks for that. Looking forward to it. I just want to say at the outset here, I think if you've been participating throughout the day, then the stage has been set. And as the last vendor of the day, I don't think that I need to restate the case of the current landscape and challenges around managing digital evidence. I think the evidence is clear that there is a mountain of digital files and various coping mechanisms of how to submit evidence to a court and to other parties. So over the next 30 minutes or so, my colleague David Jackson and I are going to present a slightly different approach to solving the problem via Thomson Reuters Caselines, the secure, collaborative digital evidence platform. Thomson Reuters is the leading provider of solutions such as Westlaw, Clear, Drafting Assistant, Practical Law, and for over 150 years, we've been providing answers to the legal industry through a broad portfolio of legal services and technologies. We have a proven track record of providing timely and relevant services and solutions to some of the legal industry's most challenging issues. And our customers rely on our technologies to make informed decisions and manage their business and caseloads. After 150 years, we like to think legal is in our DNA. In the US, over 1,750 county and city governments use our solutions to find the bad guys, fight fraud, manage claims, distribute trusted information, and deliver justice. Alex, you can go to the next slide. Our portfolio includes a modern court case management solution, C-Track, which is used by courts of all levels and types across the US and internationally to manage cases from case initiation to final disposition and all of the events that occur in between. In the diagram, you can see that courts are represented as the hub of a justice ecosystem. And our goal is to facilitate a connected justice ecosystem where the information is readily available, parties can easily submit and manage their cases, and decisions can be rendered. Today's technologies offer massive flexibility to integrate and share information. And this results in improved access, reduction in redundant data entry, and ultimately resolving matters more quickly. In mid-2020, Thomson Reuters acquired Caselines and added it to our portfolio of solutions, specifically to address digital evidence submission and, importantly, real-time collaboration around the evidence in in-person, virtual, and in today's hybrid hearings. Caselines is being integrated into many of the solutions found in a justice ecosystem. Next slide, please. Caselines is a secure, shared platform where evidence is managed, presented, considered, and then accepted into a court's case management solution as the official record. It provides the full digitization of all types of proceedings, criminal, civil, family matters, and levels the playing field for all case parties because of its simple interface, mobile access, and interoperability to all platforms. So with that, David, why don't you introduce today's demo scenario?
Kendall, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody who's out there in the audience. It's good to be back. Pardon me, I have a frog in my throat. So what I'm going to do today is talk to you first just about the principles of how the Caseline system works and how it can be used both to support the entire journey from crime scene to courtroom, particularly for the attorney and the district attorney, and then using the same system in the courts. And some of you know that we're already working in Arizona's courts and across the entire state. We just recently launched in New Hampshire and a number of other states. What I'm then going to do is do a demo and then talk to you about some of the principles of the way that we see the system operating over the next year or so to improve the services that we can deliver to you. So starting with this picture, we have the assumption that the district attorney is the customer and is using the Caselines Attorney Edition for preparation of case files, picking up from, for instance, Omnigo, as we just heard a moment ago, or from Axon, or from other parties, or from none, if the law enforcement agencies and police departments that you're working with don't have some of the existing systems that you might prefer that they did have. So what we see is a journey where law enforcement start off with all sorts of evidence. It could be written evidence, it could be photographs, it's CCTV and body-worn camera. And the Caseline system allows them to upload that information into Caseline so that the district attorney, both the intake team can create the case file, and then assistant district attorneys can work on that material, review the case, decide whether charges are going to be brought, decide the nature of the charges, and eventually, assuming that charges are being progressed and nobody has pleaded out, then to pass that information to the public defender. So the system includes tools to redact information if there's things that can't be shown to public defender, and to automate the Ediscovery process. Now, all of this integrates, and we can talk about that later, with existing case management systems. So it isn't a matter of ripping and replacing anything, it's just building something on top to give you additional tools. Alex, could you click again, please? So what you now see is the view taken from the courts, where Caselines is used as the tool for review and presentation of evidence in the courtroom. So where courts such as Arizona or New Hampshire or elsewhere have their own copies of the Caseline system, then the district attorney can transfer their file straight into the court ready for the hearing. And when that hearing is ready to go, judge, witness, and jury all see the evidence presented in the court, whether that's a hybrid hearing, whether it's a virtual hearing, or a old-fashioned physical, everybody in the courtroom. Now, the system also integrates directly to the court CMS system, so that things like basic case data can be seen in both systems and can integrate through to e-filing if the court wants to use an e-filing system for additional evidence. Now, once the hearing is going, one of the things that happens in courts often is that new evidence has to be admitted, particularly if it's a self-represented litigant. They turn up, they have additional information they want to show to the judge. The judge can admit that new evidence, and Caselines allows the evidence to be uploaded directly during the hearing. In the next few minutes, we're going to see both of those things going on. I'm going to start the demo by working backwards, in effect. I'm going to show you how the system is used in the courtroom today, so you get a sense of why you would bother to use this system. And then I'm going to work back through that journey to show how the DA can pull in evidence from law enforcement, prepare it, make an Ediscovery file, give that to the public defender, and then work eventually through to a full trial. So Alex, now if you could give me screen share, I'm going to just checking that everybody can see my screen here.
Yes,
You're good.
Great. Okay. So what you see in front of you is the Caselines file for the case of the IGES Institute versus Carl. Carl has been arrested for an offence, and we're just going to look at the file and give you a sense of all the tools that are available for courtroom presentation. So as we look at the system, in the middle of the screen here, you can see the evidence file, and I can scroll down very easily through these documents. On the left-hand side is the index, and I can click to any document here. I can break open the index and then click to another document. It's a very fast system. We aim at less than half a second to move from one document to another. Across the top, we have a series of tools, which I'm going to talk about a bit in this demo over the next few minutes. And over on the right-hand side, you can see that we've got some notes. I'm going to come back to those in a minute. What I want to do first is just talk about the tools that we have across the top. So you can see that the Find menu is open here, and I'm going to focus first on the search tools. When I click on search, I can look across the case, and I'm going to search on the word Westminster. And you'll see here that we have our search terms come up just as you would have with Google snippets. And I'm going to look down and see what documents I want. Now, one of the nice things about the Caseline system is that it allows you to have a preview of the documents. There's a little button here that allows me to click to see double screen. That's also very useful in a hearing. For instance, if a judge wants to look at, say, a witness statement and also the charge sheet, they can compare the two together to see whether things are consistent. But you can see here that these are the documents, and I'm going to choose this document here. And you'll see there in the middle of the screen, highlighted in yellow, is the word Westminster. Now, one of the really smart things about Caselines is that in the background, we OCR every single document that goes into the system, but we use an AI engine to do handwriting recognition so that we actually can index handwriting as well as words within pictures, such as license plates, etc. So that you have a tool that also allows you to do handwriting search, as you can see here. I'm going to click out of that and move across to another part of the screen now. So I've shown you how to navigate around by using the index, but there are multiple ways of navigating within the Caseline system to make it really easy in a presentation. And the one I want to focus on next is this button in the middle where I'm circling my mouse. This is the Direct Others to Page. Now, this can be used in a physical presentation. It becomes incredibly useful in virtual or hybrid hearing, because it allows the attorney to take control of the process and send everybody else to a different page. So when I click on, let me choose a different page now, just for the sake of argument, and I'm going to direct others to that page. So as soon as I click on that button, everybody gets a message saying, would you like me to direct you to page B1? And you can click OK, or you can ignore if you wish. but it means that nobody else has to find a file. Nobody has to download a document. Nobody has to say to the judge, Your Honor, I'm sorry, I've downloaded the wrong document. Could we please have a moment? Everything moves very fast in a courtroom. And to give you a sense of how fast that is, we have one customer who's recently conducted a very large civil trial that was set for 77 days. So you get a sense, this is a huge trial. There were 50,000 pages of evidence. They actually completed in 45 days because of the time savings that they made using Caselines. So I'm going to cancel this now, but I'm going to just show you another feature here, the auto direction feature. When auto direction is on, when I use that button, then the other screens will be automatically sent to that screen. So very simple way of setting up the jury to put a monitor in the jury room and simply click auto direction on their monitor, or for a witness so that the witness can walk onto the stand, doesn't need to do anything, but can simply be moved through the evidence very, very simply. One of the things that I want to show here, for instance, is the different types of evidence that we can have, as you would expect in the system. I'm just going to show a photograph here. So there's the photograph, and I might want to make a point. So I'm going to move to presentation. I'm going to call out these keys. Perhaps it's actually it's a picture of a knife or something that we want to show in on the screen. Maybe it's a item of a map, but very simple tool to allow us to focus in on precisely the point that we want the jury to see. I'll click away from that. And now I want to just show you one of the other ways to navigate around the system. In this case, we're going to navigate by using the notes. So for instance, here we've got a note and it has a direction on it, go to page. So if I click, it takes me straight away to that note. And I've got a colleague has put a note on the screen there that you can see saying, is there any prior on this? So one of my colleagues can reply and say, yes, 3 years in state pen. And I can then share that note with my colleagues. If I wish, you can see that it's, in this case, widely shared, so everybody can see it. I can make it private, or I can share it with other colleagues that we can. Okay, I must have moved my mouse inadvertently there. The final thing that I want to show is the ease of showing video. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to use the same technique of going to the media. So I click, and up comes the CCTV. Now, you all know about the difficulties of getting CCTV into court, either by a thumb drive or by a DVD, the difficulty of getting the DVD player working in the courtroom, and the time that gets wasted, but then the time that you need to spend getting to the right point in the video, which might be 5 minutes, but it might be an hour-long video of, say, an interview. In this case, what we can do is, as soon as I click, you can see that what happened is we started at exactly the right point in the video at 41 seconds in order to show precisely the thing that we want to show to the jury. And as a user, I can make multiple notes onto the system. Both the public defender and the district attorney can make their own notes showing different points of the same video. Okay, so what you've seen here is the basic use of the system in a virtual hearing or a real hearing in a court. And what I want to do now is take us back through the journey and show how we got to where we got to in the last few moments. So I'm going to click over into another part of the system. I'm going to update the case. And the first thing that I want to do is look at how we might introduce evidence into the system. And there are different sections. You saw that on the index a moment ago. We had the trial exhibits, we had the interrogation transcripts, you can see these, and we've got police evidence. Now, what you're about to see is the request feature. So I'm going to request documents here, and I'm going to ask for documents to be put into the police evidence part. But I could also, if this were in a hearing itself, and I mentioned that a few moments ago, I could just ask for a self-represented litigant to take a picture on their smartphone of the document and file that immediately there and then with the court. The system works for both use cases, but where we're finding it particularly helpful is for courts and district attorneys that are working with multiple agencies. I mean, and typically most DAs will probably deal with at least a dozen, if not as many as 20 different agencies, from the Highway Patrol, the FBI, the DEA, and the law enforcement agencies in the local area, the Metropolitan PD, etc. Some of those will have tools like Omnigo or Axon's evidence.com, and they'll be well equipped to manage digital evidence and pass it through to the DA and to the court. But many of them won't. And in many cases, the simplest thing you can do is not ask for an integration to a system that doesn't exist, but just make a really simple way of allowing somebody to upload evidence. So here what we're going to do is I'm going to ask a colleague, so Mr. Salim Habib, to give me some evidence. Now, this might be a law enforcement officer. It might be a court in a different county. It might be the litigant themselves. Anyone can do this. We can set it to be active in this case for a day. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask for this to be uploaded by smartphone. Check that I've done that right. And in this case, you can see that the evidence is going to appear in police evidence, but we could have chosen to put it into a different section depending on what we want to do. Now, we'll come back to that in a second, because the next thing that I want to look at is the process of preparing information for disclosure to the defense. So we'll go back to that file that we had a few moments ago, and we'll go back to the start page. And what I want to do now is I want to, let's assume that one of the police officers involved in this case is either an undercover officer, maybe we had a confidential informant, and I'm going to have to search and redact to make sure that that name isn't disclosed. So what I'm going to do now, in fact, if we look at this note here, you'll see that I've got a note saying, please redact the name of the officer. So I'm going to do two redactions. First of all, I'm going to redact an area. And the category of redactions is law enforcement. And I'm just going to mark here and take out the name. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the rest of the document. Let's have a look at this document. You can see that this is an interview note, and the name Braggs appears repeatedly. We don't want to have to do that manually. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to search on Braggs. And there we go. So what we've got now is we've got a whole series of results. We've obviously had this new document, the police interrogation report, has been added recently, and it hasn't yet been redacted. So we can see that the word Braggs here is appearing in yellow, tells me a warning that it's not been redacted. There are other documents already in the system that are highlighted in blue, which tells me that that redaction was found previously, perhaps by a different colleague. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to redact the whole of this interrogation note. And the system will do an automatic redaction. And you can see that that is a very fast system. That took about 30 seconds or so. It feels very uncomfortable for me sitting here during the demo, but actually that's pretty fast to do those redactions. So we'll come back to that in a moment, because what I want to do is I want to build the file for Ediscovery. So I'm going to go over to the other section where we have an English term called bundles, basically some folders, for want of a better word, and I'm going to create a new one. So here I'm going to say this is index B, and I'm going to call it the Ediscovery file. And I'm going to save my documents. Now I've got to choose what documents I want to put in. So let's go over to my sections. And I'm going to add all the trial exhibits, and I'm going to include all of those by default. And then I'm going to add the interrogation transcripts, But in this case, I'm not going to include all of the documents by default. Maybe for whatever reason, there is some of that information that wasn't meant to be disclosed. Maybe it relates to a different offence and we're not going to disclose on this occasion. So these are the documents that we had. We've got the first interrogation report, second interrogation report, third interrogation report. I'm going to add that first document. I'll just try and get that out of the way. So we'll include it. I'm going to add the second document, include that, but in fact, I'm only going to include page 1 of that document for whatever reason. But what I'm showing is the system is extremely granular in the choice of information that you can give. So now what we've done is we've built our file for the public defender. What I need to do now is just make sure that the redaction categories are applied. So we'll apply those redactions that we had a moment ago. And I'm going to apply any PII redactions, B5, B6 redactions are there, and off we go. So let's go back over to the previous link, and we'll just need to refresh that page. Just take me a second. Now what you're seeing is at the top of the index here, where we previously just had the master bundle, we've now got an extra one, the Ediscovery file. So,
hi, I just have a missed call from you.
Oh,
was that a question? So now we're back at the Ediscovery file, and you'll recall that we had probably about 100 documents in this file earlier. Now we've only got these documents here, the basic documents, and those interrogation transcripts. Remember, there were 3 there, but we've now only got 2 of them. This document is now only 1 page long, and you can see that the names of the interviewers have been removed, and the reason given, that's a B6 redaction, that's a B7. And here we are. This is the document we wanted to redact earlier, and these are the redactions of Officer Braggs's name, taken out automatically. So a very simple process to get the file ready to go to the public defender. Now, let's just go back to the master file for the moment, and let's assume, just finishing this process, that we are now back in court and we're in front of the jury, and we want to create a record of what's been heard during the hearing. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my stamps, and let's say that we've got, clearly we're going to show the jury the complaint. So I'm going to stamp that as shown to jury, all pages, and we're going to stamp it. So there we are, it's stamped. There are lots of different stamps at the top here. We can stamp documents to mark them as sealed. We can seal and unseal documents. We can stamp exhibits for different parties. But I'm just showing the general principle as shown to the jury today. So we'll put this into the jury as well. And we're going, just stamp that. Let's take the interrogation transcript, which probably in practice wouldn't have been shown to the jury, but let's assume that it has been. And then finally, let's go and look at some of that police evidence. Now, a moment ago, I asked for some additional evidence to be uploaded. So let's see what we got. And there you are. That's probably 2 to 3 minutes ago. What's the timestamp? It's on the computer there. Just a couple of minutes ago, that was the computer screen that Mr. Habib has uploaded for us. So it shows you just how quickly you can get information into the system and available for review in the court. But what I want to do here is just mark this as shown to the jury. That's the document that we showed earlier. So now we have our jury file, and I'm just going to finish off the process by looking at our bundles. And now we have a complete file of everything that is shown to the jury, ready for download. That can be exported to an archive system, to a case management system. It can also be stored as a matter of record and sent to the Court of Appeal if this case gets appealed. We now have automatically created the file for the jury. So let's go back over to here and change this, and here we are. You can see there that there's our jury file, and we can move around and see the documents in the jury file. So Alex, I'm going to stop at this point. I've got a couple of slides that I'd like to pick up again and just talk about some additional features in the system that I haven't had time to demonstrate now. So I'm going to stop my screen share and ask you if you could put the next slide up, if that's okay. Sorry, I'll find it out. Thank you. So if you could possibly go to the next slide. Sorry, the next one. So one of the things that I want to talk about are some of the tools that we have coming into the system to simplify that working process with multiple agencies. First of all is the Axon Integration. That will allow a police officer and law enforcement working in evidence.com to do all of the case preparation, pulling together different documents, doing some of the work that you would typically do in evidence.com, such as blurring faces in a video, preparing information that needs to go out to the prosecutor, and then from the case area, simply press a button to push that straight into the Caselines case. Next click, please, Alex. One of the other things that has just been released into the system is the ability to deal with proprietary multimedia. So one of the things that we've found, and all of you know, is that there is a huge number of file types out there, many of which are in proprietary formats. Sometimes it's because it's a slightly old dash cam vendor, maybe it's CCTV. We've been working with Toronto police and the prosecutors in Toronto in Canada. They told us that they actually have 3,300 different file types. Now, most of them are probably shown as MP5, MP4 video files, but they've been treated in the background to become proprietary and they don't play automatically. Not a problem with Caselines. And again, one of the real advantages of dealing with that request documents feature I showed a few minutes ago is that if you're dealing with a small police department somewhere that hasn't got the ability to deal with different proprietary players, you can save them a huge amount of time by saying just drop that file straight into Caselines, because Caselines will do the file processing in the background and convert it into the MPEG-4 file that we saw a few moments ago for immediate playback in the system, and saving a huge amount of time. And then finally, Alex, so the last thing is automatic case referral. One of the things that we hear from district attorneys is the difficulty of getting the whole case file set up in the first place, particularly if an arrest is made over a weekend or out of hours. So one of the things that we're going to create is the ability for authorized law enforcement officers to send all the basic case details straight to Caselines using a dedicated email address. So it's a very simple process, doesn't require any training for law enforcement, and can be used with any of your local agencies. And just say to them, if you need to get a case created for review by the DA on a Monday morning, this is what you do. Send the basic information to Caselines to this email address, and what you will get in return is a case file. The case is automatically created. The relevant users are invited into the system. A template is used to create the appropriate sections, depending on how you want the file to be designed. And you'll get back an upload link that will tell you how to upload all of the relevant information that you want to send into the DA for a case conference first thing on a Monday morning. So Alex, that's some simple tools for the prosecutors. And the next thing is new tools for the witness, the jury, and public viewing. So the next step is for the system to allow you to have a different view for witnesses and juries. What will happen is that we're building a portal that will allow the witness to log in. They won't need to register. They won't need to provide any information to the system. They can be anonymous, or the jurors can just be given the number juror 1, juror 2, juror 3. The court staff can create the link for them. They send them a PIN number, and they simply click on the screen to go to the portal, put in the PIN number, and they go straight into the system. That will then allow the witness to see a much stripped down view of the page. They won't be able to see at the index, so they won't be able to guess ahead as to what other documents are there. This can also be used for depositions. So it can be used for a grand jury deposition, for a witness deposition. It means that you'll be able to bring the witness into the room and impeach them because you can surprise them. They won't have seen evidence beforehand. And then you can move ahead. You can create a jury file. And the next step will eventually to be able to create a public view that can be put up on a live stream link, and will show the documents on a live stream link that are being shown in the courtroom there and then. Next, click Alex, please. And the final step is to allow the witness to mark up the exhibit. So whereas a few moments ago, I showed you the call out feature where we saw that photograph, the next step is to allow the witness to use a pen tool on the screen, draw a circle around those keys, around the vehicle that they identified from a crime scene video, and say that is those are the keys, that's the weapon that I saw, whatever, and that will automatically create a new exhibit that is stored in exactly the same way as we showed that shown to jury button a few moments ago. System will automatically create and store that new exhibit as a record of what the witness said that they actually saw when they were on the stand. Finally, the judge and the attorney will be able to see, in addition to their own notes on their own documents, in parallel, the witness screen, so they see exactly what it is the witness is looking at as they're asking them those questions. So that wraps up both our discussion and the demo, and we're very happy now to take some questions.
All right. David, I got a question in direct message in reference to a comment that you made about introducing evidence in court. I imagine that a judge may wish to, or someone in the court may wish to control how that evidence is introduced and presented to make sure it's appropriate and that type of thing. How's that managed?
Well, typically what happens is the clerk in the court will be the one, or a bailiff will be the one who supervises that process. So what we see is that litigant, we see a lot of this in family cases, for instance, where somebody comes in and they bring their bank statement or their last pay slip, or they want to say to the judge, I'm facing eviction, here is the letter, Your Honor, and I want that admitted as an exhibit. So the judge will decide, yes, that's okay, I'm going to admit that as an exhibit, and either the litigant themselves photographs it, it could be the court clerk that takes the photograph, but instantly that is put into the system and can be stamped as an admitted exhibit.
Okay, so I guess the question kind of speaks to control of what is presented in court versus what is submitted to Caselines, and I take it that the submission goes to the bailiff or the judge or magistrate or whoever, but there must be some integration with presentation in the court and presentation in a virtual setting. Are there any special considerations when you think about the applications and the hardware and the facilities needed for virtual hearings or for in-court presentation?
I would say not any particular difficulties with hardware. One of the things is that the system is designed to have a very low bandwidth. And for anybody technical out there who's thinking, how do they do that? The reason is that all those pages that I showed you were not actually a document. They were an image of a single page. So nobody is downloading documents. You can use the system with a PC, with an iPad. We get a lot of lawyers who come into court just with an iPad or a tablet and mark up their notes using the Apple stylus or something like that. What happens in a virtual hearing is that you will be seeing on one screen or one window the presentation material, and you'll see, as we are now in the Zoom call, the snippets of the different parties. So it's a very simple system to operate. It doesn't require a huge amount of investment in any new technology. Pretty much everybody's got the technologies they need. What we'll see sometimes is a court will put up a 55, 60-inch monitor to have something easy for the jury to look at. And very often they'll want to put a 20, 24-inch monitor next to the witness stand. But those are small investments and not difficult to procure. There's nothing special that people need. One of the things, because the system is cloud-based, it's just load it and switch it on. I mean, literally, we have had courts that go live within a day or two, and we've had entire states that go live within a month or two. So it's a very fast system. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thanks. Sheikh Cleary asked, with regard to the redactions that you had, who can view and search redacted documents? How is it controlled? How are user rights and roles employed there?
Sure, I didn't show the permissions table because I thought of driving into too much detail, but we can control the permissions that people have to a very granular level. So the first thing is that we decide whether somebody can see redacted or unredacted documents, whether they can see sealed or unsealed documents at that level. And then you can choose which documents they actually see by creating those subfolders, as I did with that Ediscovery file. And you could create another file for, say, a forensic accountant, for them to look at files from, in a fraud case, they could be the witness, and you give them appropriate documents. You choose what documents you put into that subfolder, and then you choose whether that folder is going to be redacted or not. We can also
I just want to add to that, that's granular to the specific case.
Yes.
So it's not a global setting. If you have redaction viewing in one case, that doesn't necessarily mean you have it in another one. So it gets very granular to the specific case.
Okay, very good, very good. I got another question in the chat about the fact that all the cases shared today across both sessions dealt with primarily criminal. How is evidence management, and I'm going to pitch this both to Isa and to you folks from TR Caselines, how does it differ, or how is it, how's it applied in family or probate cases, civil matters, and that, generally speaking?
From our point of view, if I take that first, since I'm on, sorry, Isa, the system is agnostic to what sort of evidence it is. And although you will have different processes in family, particularly around confidentiality, the system allows for both of those things. Some of those redaction tools that we put in were designed specifically for childcare. We do a lot of juvenile and child protection cases, somewhere around 5,000 a year. And some of the material you can imagine is pretty horrific. The other thing is the system is very scalable. So typical law criminal matter will be 50 pages and a few photographs. Our average across criminal is about 300 pages. But in civil matters, it can be anywhere from 500 pages to one we did recently in Canada, which started in March of this year. They started loading their file on the 5th of March, and by the 23rd of March, they were at trial. They had 77,000 pages of evidence, about 4,000 photographs and 25 hours of video. So the system can be used and is used in both civil and family child protection cases. It's also used a lot by tribunals for administrative hearing. A lot of administrative law judges use it.
Mm-hmm. Isa, what's your take on all of that? Let's see. Isa, are you still live here?
He is. I think he's on mute there, Joe. There he is.
Oh.
Sorry, I was on mute. Was it related to the question on how long it's going to take to implement the system?
No, it was more along the lines of the how does it apply to civil?
Oh.
Most of the matters here have been criminal matters. Is it fundamentally different in some form or fashion as implemented in civil matters?
Right. So civil is you get less files for civil than criminal and other types of cases. In fact, with one of our implementation for the digital evidencing course, we started with civil and traffic, and then we're expanding to add criminal and other types of cases. The difference mainly would be in the way they number these exhibits. You have a different scheme to number exhibits from traffic to civil to criminal. And the system should be flexible enough to accommodate the difference in numbering. By the end of the day, the digital evidence is digital evidence, whether it's through civil or criminal. It would have different statute of limitation, of course, when it's criminal than traffic. And the system should be able to accommodate these kind of different rules based on the different types of cases.
Very good. I have a TR Caselines kind of specific question. It talks about the integration of the products between the C-Track product and the Caselines product. Kendall, I don't know if you can see the chat from Doug Oates.
Let me take a look.
Okay.
How's the product integration of Caselines and C-Track progressing?
Yeah. And
Are
what
the
are
modules integrated? Yes. So the integration is in our upcoming release. So that's scheduled, I think, for the end of this year or first quarter of next year. But there are numerous touch points now where evidence as it gets admitted during the process of a hearing will automatically appear in all of the relevant places within C-Track. As calendars and events are scheduled, the evidence that's necessary to be reviewed during that is all linked within the case files. So there's probably a dozen integration points that we are introducing through the C-Track and Caselines integration release.
So similar to my question about to Isa in his session, does someone in C-Track then look at a link to something and be able to just click on it and go, or do they have to work in the digital evidence center?
No, well, it's a variety. It depends on the workflow, Joe. So typically somebody who is working in C-Track or any case management system for that matter will be looking at things like scheduling hearings, assigning a judge to a hearing, checking that all the parties have put the right files into the case, just making sure that it's case ready. And then typically what we see is that there'll be a link from the case management system to take you straight over into the relevant evidence files to see those. And usually in the background, synchronization to make sure that documents that are put into the system are the audit trail of that is flowed back into the case management system, and also things like case disposition. So if at the end of the hearing there is a guilty finding or not guilty, that will be tracked in the Caseline system and automatically flowed back through into the case management system. But one of the things that we've focused on a lot is being able to do multiple simultaneous integrations. So we have what's called a RESTful interface, standard JSON messages, and those can be passed to multiple systems. So case disposition can be passed straight back to something like Omnigo, to a records management system, to an evidence room technical system, to say this case has been completed, not guilty. The evidence can, and then the evidence room technician can say, well, now we know what to do with that. So you see that the benefits flow all the way through the system, and it takes that whole crime scene courtroom and back again, because the people in law enforcement need to have that information.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I would just add to that. It's very workflow centric. So if you think about the demonstration that you just saw from David, we're taking the parties and we're allowing them to collaborate around a body of evidence. I love these terms. And then once that evidence has been admitted, it moves into the official record, the case management system, for full retention, for completion of the court record, for appellate issues, et cetera. So we really look at Caselines as that secure collaboration area where all of the parties and the witnesses and the jury can come together, review information, make decisions, and then store that permanently into C-Track or the case management system.
Okay, very good. So we have about 5 minutes left. I'm going to ask one last question. It came across from Bob about implementation and what the process and time frame is to implement. And I'm going to drop that to both Isa and to the folks from Thomson Reuters Caselines. Kendall, since you're on screen right now, I'll let you go first, and then Isa, why don't you pop in too? And if I can keep you to 2 minutes each, that'd be great.
That's great. I'm going to then not be on screen. I know David wants to answer this question, so
Okay.
I'll try to hide myself.
Okay, well, I'll jump in. I'll try and keep it short. So Caselines, as I mentioned, it's a cloud-based system and it doesn't need to be integrated to anything else. It can operate out of the box and you can integrate later. So what we've seen is, for instance, Webb County, Texas last year in the middle of the pandemic, they started with the system, got it loaded on a Monday, heard their first hearings on Thursday. So that's probably one of the fastest we've ever done. But then in Ontario, for instance, Ontario's procurement started in May, contracts signed at the end of July, first cases heard 10th of August. So it can be a very fast system to implement. At statewide level, we'd normally expect probably about 3 to 4 months. At a county level, 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. Isa, what's your approach and how long does that take?
Well, we can go as fast as the agency can go. The main problem we have is with our publicly facing system where litigants have to upload files. You've got to have a policy and procedure in place, and that's where usually the time consuming is. You've got to create training materials in which we provide tons of videos out of the box. But what we have seen is agencies want to tailor this to their logos, to their messaging. They want to put it on their website for the public so they can access these beforehand. That's where the time consuming. And like Thomson Reuters, our system is a cloud-based system, multi-tenant environment, already has hot failover, very solid AWS-backed GovCloud infrastructure. We can put the system out for the agency to test it in 30 minutes. But how long does it take for the policies to kick in? We need also to do our walkthrough to configure the workflow and other things. That typically takes about a week. Typically, having the system in place will all depend on how fast the agency can go with us.
Very good. Appreciate that, those insights. So we've got a couple of minutes left, and here's your Easter egg that I promised at the beginning of the session. As we close today, IGES is making a special offer that we haven't done before. Today, we witnessed different types of demonstrations and presentations from the morning session to the afternoon sessions. We had different questions in the morning session and the afternoon session. And so we have still some more things to discuss across all the folks that have been in discussion here. All the folks that have demonstrated today are IGES members, and being a member-focused organization like we are, and these members include industry folks like the folks that presented today, and also agency folks that have contributed comments and questions through all this. We are going to provide all the registrants a survey, as we always do with these, in about a week. Well, something along that time frame. This survey will provide your opportunity to give us feedback, but it will also provide an opportunity to specifically ask additional questions that you might have, any kind of additional information or things you want demoed or those types of things. And the IGES court committee is going to try to curate all those questions and work with these members to try to get those questions answered in a format or maybe a session where we get back together and continue this dialogue. So the format of how that all works depends on you and what you ask. And we are going to try to dynamically respond to the needs of the community as we address this really important topic here. So as I close this, I just want to say thank you to the panelists today, both from the morning and the afternoon, to our moderator, Shay, from the morning session, and a special thanks to Alex, who is the executive producer that puts all this together, and Maria, the executive director of the IGES Institute that makes this all happen. I want to thank you all for being here and all of you on this call for your participation today. This has been another wonderful session. Thank you and have a great day.